Welcome again to Raining Cats and Dogs, you guys, and thank you very much for making our first semester of doing this show a success. We appreciate it greatly. On today's episode, before we wrap things up in front of the holiday season, we'll be joined by three coaches in the offseason. First, we will check in with Kellen Nesbitt, head Truman State University football coach, and then we'll touch base with Lee Riley, Kirksville High School boys tennis coach, before following it up with Dave Gannon to talk about his Truman State University volleyball season. But first and foremost, we really want you guys to know how much we appreciate this. And we could not do this without viewership and listenership. It has been a lot of fun over the course of these past handful of weeks, and we very much look forward to seeing you guys in 2026. So thank you very much for making this thing possible. Kellen, how are you doing this afternoon, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well. Welcome to the show. Kellen Nesbitt, friend of the program, was on here a handful of months ago with his father, Greg, Kirksville football head coach, and we were in season at that point in time. We'll do a little bit more looking back this time around. First and foremost, 31 years is a very long time. It's a very long time, and congratulations on a regional berth. Things did not end in Indianapolis like the Bulldogs would have liked, but you can say you were there. Mm-hmm. You can say you were there, and you absolutely earned it, and I don't think anybody would take that away from you. What are some of the things, looking back in the past handful of weeks, when a football season ends, what are some of the boxes that you have to check before really getting into off-season mode?
Well, with the Division II football calendar, you end a regular season and you're jumping headfirst into the heaviest phase of recruiting that we have in a calendar year. Going from late November till signing date in early February is quite the recruiting sprint. And we were obviously a week back this year because of the extension of the season. So to say that we've done a ton of reflection at this point just would be less than truthful. We've been full steam ahead, trying to get the next recruiting class put together and working from that standpoint. So it's the coaches have been out on the road. We've been in high schools, we've been in junior colleges, and we're starting to get some official visits going. So it's been a busy couple of weeks, even though the season's been done.
How does the cycle work? How does the cycle work for you guys around holiday time before it's full speed ahead?
We will work, through this week, and then we'll take a couple weeks off, the week of Christmas and the week of New Year's. And it's never really off in recruiting. You're still working recruiting contacts and phone calls and visiting with parents and prospects and all that. But we certainly won't be doing anything in the office, no official visits, no school visits, none of that kind of stuff until after the New Year. So we're kind of finishing this last little push up this week, and then we'll take some much needed time with families and get out of the office and all that kind of stuff. And certainly the staff has earned that with this sprint of work, that started back in early August.
One thing that I would like you to reflect on, I don't think really takes any time to reflect on, is your senior class. I want to highlight Denham Cook, especially for those who don't know who he is, one of the finer running backs in all of Division II football. Talk about that senior class as a whole and what the Bulldogs are going to lose and what gaps are going to need to be filled there.
Well, you highlighted one of the bigger ones there in terms of production, but with Denham, as being our leading running back and just had an excellent career for us. But in general, there's so much with each senior group. Those guys, from leadership to the different roles that they play for us on the field, and just everything encompassing them. And anymore, college athletics, college football. It's a lot of work. I mean, these guys, most people I think would be surprised at how much effort, time, physical effort, what these guys put into a career. So any of those guys who can make it, from their freshman year of college all the way through to the end, I admire every single one of them, just for the persistence, the toughness, the ability to keep getting up and coming back to work every single day with the amount of physical effort, and mental effort and everything that goes into it. So I hope, and I'm pretty convinced, that all those guys are better for it, and certainly our program is better for having them, as they've left their impact on just a great career winning and losing. Great job in terms of building culture. And the culture and the legacy that they've left, and now to your point, breaking that 31-year playoff drought, they've truly left themselves in the history books in terms of being one of the great Bulldog football teams.
Talk a little bit about, this is something that we had spoke about when you were on the show the first time, 2 months ago, or whenever it might have been. A coaching staff that has come together very quickly. You speak about how, fortunate you are to have found the coaching staff that you have, and it just seems like it doesn't really happen at as quickly of a rate as it has for this to just be a solidified coaching unit. Talk about all of those dudes' roles in the off season, and just how far you guys have come collectively as the now Truman State University coaching staff.
Well, you got Jeremy Dockery, who's our defensive line, kind of assistant defensive coordinator with me, and then head strength and conditioning for our entire football program. And he's been here all but 1 year that I've been here as either a player or a coach. So there was some continuity there, as Dad retired and I became the head coach. You had Doc, and then getting Coach Zoda, who played here as well. So now you've got Doc's a Truman alum, and then you get Coach Zoda, who's a Truman alum. So getting those guys in helped build some instant continuity, from a Truman State standpoint, and understanding what it is to play here, go to school here, and just all the things, to live in Kirksville and everything. So I think that helped speed the process up. And then we added in Coach Clay Marshall, who just seemed to fit like a glove. If I didn't know any better, I would assume he's been a Truman the whole time too. That's how fast, he transitioned into being a Bulldog, so that's been just a great fit. Him and Coach Zoda have gelled instantly, and he's just done a great job with our offensive line and with our tight ends. And then, Coach Johnson, our wide receiver coach, recruiting coach, just one of those deals where, honestly, God was taking care of us in terms of just providing somebody that just fell in our lap, who's an excellent ball coach, an excellent recruiter, has turned into a great friend, somebody that I lean on a lot, on the day-to-day, and just really excited to add him. And then a really, really young, talented coach in Bear Earp, who was kind of looking for his first opportunity and came with some great recommendations, and he's getting himself going. So it's just, there's no science to it. It's just kind of worked out the way it has. And, but it certainly has been fun with this group. And then, you get a couple part-time coaches, Coach John Dabney. Now you've got some veteran, a Missouri Hall of Fame high school coach who knows the area. So you've got some veteran leadership in there, along with, now on the complete other end of the spectrum, Dominic Stoneking from Moberly, just down the road, a real young up-and-coming coach. So it's been a great staff, and showing up to work every day certainly has been a lot of fun.
One thing that I wonder sometimes, and I don't know if it ever crosses your guys' mind, and since I know you personally, just the youthful appearance, does that help on the recruiting trail? I'm just thinking about it now, and I'm thinking about a bunch of people who are ultimately, like, in my mind, veteran coaches, but we're still talking a coaching staff that's average age is under 40, and you don't find that a lot of places. Does that help you guys out?
I think it helps out connecting with players. I mean, a lot of recruiting is building relationship, and I think their youth and their energy certainly helps from that standpoint. So I do think that can help from a connection standpoint and relationship standpoint in recruiting, but also with our roster. Once the guys are here.
As an outside observer, the Dogs, if you were to watch them over the course of your tenure from the first time you coached to the end of this season, a lot more fun, a lot more electricity on offense, some high scoring outputs that we didn't maybe necessarily see at the beginning of last year. How has that trajectory kind of gone as far as winning the games? The one that I want to highlight especially is the beating of Upper Iowa here at Stoke Stadium earlier this year. Upper Iowa, I believe, won the Crossroads Bowl.
Yep.
Against who did they play? Against Hillsdale. And very good football team. They were canvassing that they should have been potentially in a regional. That's maybe the highlight of the season, in a game where you guys just scored at will.
Mm-hmm.
How has that become part of the Bulldogs' MO?
I think there's a lot of parts to that. I think that Dylan Hare is an excellent football player, our starting quarterback, and his playmaking ability is exciting, and he keeps the offense exciting. I think him and Coach Zoda have gelled really well together and built a great relationship. So we've got good chemistry between our quarterback coach, play caller, and our quarterback himself. So I think that helps a lot. And then I think they've done a great job talking, they being Coach Zoda and Dylan, and spreading the ball around to a lot of different people. Denham every week, he's going to be a centerpiece of the offense, and he was a fantastic lead back. But you've got other running backs that you never knew who was going to have a big day between Elijah Stevens, Thomas Pulliam, Jack Butchko. So the entire backfield would get touches. You've got tight ends that made impact on a week-to-week basis, and Gruey and Erickson and Copeland, and then a receiving core that could spread the ball around. You had Overton, you had Ryan. Unfortunately, Kel Battle got hurt early, but then that opened the door up for Jalen Kent and Adam Hall, who ended up having big seasons for us. So being a longtime defensive coach, when you're trying to defend an offense that can spread the ball around all the different weapons, push the ball deep, play sideline to sideline, play between the tackles, you can kind of start to have to pick your poison. And as your quarterback and your coordinator now get that energy together, and they start understanding, the why behind what we're doing, now the ball can just find the soft spots and keep moving around. And to your point, it becomes fun to watch. It becomes a pretty exciting product out there. And that's, for a lot of the season, that's what those guys were able to do.
I'll let you go on this note. One thing, when we had Zoda on the show, I think that was probably late September. The wealth of options made his life pretty fun, and you can't have a wealth of options if these dudes aren't playing for one another and buying in. If this game is going to be the Overton game, or this game is going to be the Gruey game, the other dudes don't care and just kind of buy into that. What's the locker room like?
I can't express how fortunate we are to have good playmakers that are also team-minded and can be unselfish. And that's a tough pill, because these are all competitive kids. Don't get it wrong. They all want to make an impact every Saturday. So the willingness to put ego aside, the willingness to put selfish ambition aside, and to put the team first is such a big deal. And I couldn't be prouder of the way those guys are able to do that on a week-to-week basis. And then the trust, their belief that Coach Zoda wants the best for the team. He wants the best game plan. He wants to score points and move the ball. And when you have opportunities, or when the matchups are in your favor, we're going to utilize you. So there's a lot of trust that has to get involved in that as well. But it's certainly one of the tricks, is that getting that team. Football, I believe, is one of the ultimate team sports. 11 starters on both sides of the ball, 22 guys, plus your kicking game and all of that. So guys being willing to accept roles, accept game plans on a week-to-week. It's certainly one of the tricks of being a great team, and this year's team was fun from that standpoint, because it didn't seem to become, you hear locker room problems and all that kind of stuff. We just didn't have many. Guys were just ready to go figure out how to be 1-0 for the week, and excited to see what the game plan was looking like for them.
Kellen, we appreciate your time, sir. I'll leave you on this. What would be a good time to catch you again over the course of the recruiting cycle?
Signing date, we'll be going through January with official visits and bringing families on campus and showing them around. And then it all kind of culminates on that first Wednesday in February. I don't have the date memorized, but that's going to be signing date. I'm certain we'll probably be doing some kind of signing day celebration or party. I know we did one last year for community members and signees and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we can think outside the box and see what that could look like. But I think that'll be the next big date on the calendar for sure.
Right on, man. And before we let you go, Kellen, I would be remiss to not give you your flowers for GLVC Coach of the Year honors. It is a great privilege. Your father also earned the award, so you're only the second coach as far as the Dogs have been in the GLVC to have earned it, all under a Nesbitt tenure. It's pretty cool. That's pretty special stuff. I know it's not about you, but at the same time, just talk about kind of what an honor that is for the program as a whole to be recognized.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Anytime you get an award like that, it truly is a reflection of the team. It's a team award from the entire staff and all the players, the entire organization, and what we're able to accomplish this year. So it is an honor, and certainly I'm proud to be able to carry on the legacy and the culture that Dad has really help build. So there's an extra, certainly level of pride, from that standpoint to be able to keep it going, and just overwhelming pride in everybody involved in the organization this year, because it was such a fun year and such a special year that whenever we do get the chance to slow down and get through this signing period and really get back and reflect, I'll certainly be looked back on it fondly. It was just such a fun year and such a good group of guys that it'll certainly be a core memory of mine for years to come.
And it seems like a million years ago since the Washburn game, just how far this program has come. And I think that is an award that is well-deserved and very reflective on how a season began versus, the final push over the past handful of months. You guys rattled off however many straight to end the season, and it looked like a program that was improving week by week. So congratulations, sir.
I think again, the bye week was week 5. I think we went into that at 1-3. Had Upper Iowa coming, who was undefeated at that time, or maybe they had one loss. I think they'd lost to Drake, maybe a D1 program, but came off the bye. So it's just a credit to the team of being able to circle the wagons and stay together and say, we're going to salvage this thing. We're going to do it 1 week at a time, and started with that big win against Upper Iowa, and then never really looked back through the course of the regular season.
Over the course of that span, losing that game to Indy at home, and then just saying, we got a lot of season left to be played, and playing some of the best football under your tenure, was very impressive.
Yep, it was a fun run. Guys were playing really good football, and obviously we wish we could have played better in the playoff game itself. But I still, as you go back and watch even that game, there was still a lot of positives to go back and look at, and a learning and a growing experience, hopefully, for the program. And it's never easy, so we'll relish the opportunity that we had. But certainly the goal will be to try and find a way back and see if we can even learn and grow from that experience.
Kellen Nesbitt, Truman State University head football coach, GLVC Coach of the Year. Kellen, thank you very much for being here this afternoon.
See you.
Joined now by Kirksville boys tennis coach Lee Riley. Lee, how are you doing this afternoon?
Great. Very good.
Thank you very much for joining the program. First thing that I would ask you, we are in a pretty dead spot as far as, you can't get these guys in the gym. A lot of them are involved in other sports and things like that. So we are in full off-season mode. What does that look like for you?
For me, off-season, we don't really do much. I mean, the kids are probably doing some lifting in their classes they have in school. Some of the kids might go and play some tennis somewhere in a gym. If we don't have a really facility anywhere to do that, go over to Quincy, maybe get some time over there. But as far as for us, our location, we're kind of dead right now for what we do. We have to try to make things up in the warm weather.
When do things really get rolling for you guys in 2026 as far as practice? And
March 1st, we could step out and we'll see what the weather is in March. But yeah, that's when it'll start for us.
Between now and then, just kind of game planning your 1 through 6. What does your lineup look like? What does your roster look like?
I've mostly got everyone back. I lost a number 5, so we will have to replace, someone in there in the top 6. But yeah, I mean, we're going to be solid. So it's looking forward to, having that last year, being a part of it.
Where does it take you guys knowing that you have somebody like a state medalist from last year, Quinn Doral, as we just talked about, returning to this team, and leadership, all those kind of things when the season does finally start getting going?
I mean, he takes the kids, they stay late. I mean, that kid is constantly on the court. He's already signed to play college tennis. So, I mean, wherever, on the side of a wall, his mom says, in the wintertime, anything that's clear on the school, he'll hit. He'll work with them. He also does lessons in the summer too with the younger kids. So if it's involved with tennis, he's going to be there. And all the kids, they follow him and they'll play too. So they get better. And he shows them how to do stuff, how to hit, how to play. I mean, he's always helping them. He's been great.
Where is he signed to play?
Oh, you kind of asked me that. In Kansas. Well, if I had my phone, I could look it up and tell. It's outside of Wichita. Well, I think Wichita somewhere. I think
that's a huge culture building thing for a program, and I hate throwing the word culture around when it comes to any athletic program. But you got a kid who's going to go play college tennis, and is also teaching lessons, and these young kids in the community see that. Do you think that benefits you or the program?
Yeah. Soccer right now is kind of big, so the numbers have been down over the years. But yeah, he's really good with those kids. Hopefully they'll just keep on feeding. Whoever takes it over after me, they're gonna have a decent program. They're gonna have some kids and some following, that play tennis. So.
Talk a little bit about your career. You are in what year is this now?
This is year 23.
Year 23. You have seen some things along the way.
I've learned quite a few things too about tennis along the way too.
And so coming into another one, hopefully, like you say, a good one, bringing everybody back aside from your 5. What's changed? What's stayed the same over the course of that better than 2 decades?
So when I first started, the numbers were probably a lot higher. I'd usually have like 30 kids out there. Now, 16. So it's kind of been cut in half. Nothing that I've done any different, than any other year. It's just there's so many different opportunities in sports out there. And like we were saying, soccer's getting pretty big in the world. So they're taking a lot of kids from us because there's a lot more youth soccer programs than what there was. There used to be tennis. Now there's soccer to choose from. So
what do you think as far as like at the youth level, just fostering tennis for like young men? Where do we go from here? Where do we kind of regenerate that interest? Not that it's gone by any means.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, I mean, things kind of run in cycles, I think. You got some good young tennis players out there right now that are out there. Golf's growing tremendously too. So I think it's just going to take it a while to come back around a little bit, get some good tennis players back in there, get everybody's interest back, and just keeping the programs they got in place. So a lot more activities for kids to do.
Where do these guys go and play in the off season if they do want to go find an indoor facility or pick up some matches or something?
For us, it's probably Quincy, indoor racket club there. Weather's nice. They can get out on our courts, go to Truman. They kind of let them come and go out there. They're pretty good about that. There's really nowhere indoors to play. So we're pretty limited. Some of your other schools, private schools, things around the city, they have indoor places to play. So we got to try to catch them on the summer, so to speak. So, it's pretty hard for us to do that. But, blessed with some good athletes over the years and, seen a lot of kids, get to go to state over it. So
where do you guys realistically see yourself landing in the last ever year of NCMC competition?
Well, we better win. That's kind of my expectations. I mean, I know what the other teams, lost. Moberly had been kind of dominant in the last few years, and they lost like 10 out of their top 12. So, we've got 5 out of my top 6, so it'll be rough for them. So, Hannibal's always got a decent program. They got a coach over there that, cares and, been consistent with it. So they'll be tough. They got numbers, but I mean, we should win the conference. In the district, it's always a crapshoot because like last year, I got to St. Joe and unbelievable because the facilities they have to play in indoors. I mean, Maryville, 1 through 6 lessons indoors. I mean, that was the best tennis team that I'd seen. And then they even had somebody to beat them. So there's different levels of it. So, we got second in the district and hopefully we'll go south instead of going up there in that corner again. That's a rough district to be in. It's really competitive.
And tennis is certainly a sport where, you hate to talk about it, especially at the high school level, but resources and facilities go a long way.
You put the time and the money in, you can get better.
Where do you guys have a schedule drawn up yet?
Yeah, she just sent me one. Sarah Williams sent me one here last week, and she's still kind of working on it.
What are some of the cooler events that you guys will be going to non-conference early season?
We usually go down the lake. We'll go to Camdenton in a tournament down there. Really competitive. So there's 3 different classes. So we're a 1. There's some 2 and some 3 classes in there in that one. So we stay in a condo. It's a 2-day deal. So kind of brings our team together, and then we kind of see where we're at competing against them bigger schools.
Who do you think is you talk about like man, we better win this conference. Who are some of the other fish that you guys are going to run into non-conference? You mentioned Moberly kind of having a historical powerhouse type of run. Who else is out there that you circle on the schedule?
We play the MMA, the Military Academy out of Mexico. He always has a lot of kids come in from, of course, the country Mexico that are always really, really good. We like playing them. They're tough, good competition for us. They're a Class 2 school. So, definitely that's a kind of a guide for us, too, to see where we're at. I think we play them right before we go to that Camden tournament that's on there. Then we have a tournament. We go over to Cameron, and there's some bigger schools in that one, too, that we see. Some of those Maryville, St. Joe schools are there, too, that we see. So,
in general, off-season time when you are just waiting to have access to these kids, we mentioned March 1st being the first practice. What are some things that you as a coach, longtime veteran coach, what are some of the things that you can control in the meantime?
Well, I give them a basket full of balls. So like one kid, so he's kind of the organizer of it. He'll call them, and they'll go ahead. They'll use all the balls that we got left over from the season. And then I can only spend so many contact hours with them. So we meet like 2 times a week in the evening and go for a couple hours, just kind of get our team and our guys together to play. And that's really kind of the extent of it. They go to camps and clinics, like my number one, he's been to quite a few tournaments, quite a few camps and clinics, to get himself better.
You guys seem like this past spring was a lot of fun. These dudes enjoy being around one another. It seems like it makes your life pretty easy. There's no infighting or anything like that. Just talk about your group collectively from that side of things.
Well, tennis, it's pretty easy because if you can beat the guy, you're going to be in front of him. So,
sure.
I mean, that is just out the window. You beat him, hey, you're in front of him. We've always been kind of a tight-knit group. They know I care. So I think that kind of reflects your players. I don't like to lose. They know that. So, that kind of rubs off on them. So they kind of have that spirit too. Like we said, we go to these tournaments, these bus trips, we take a van, there's 6, 7 of us in a van, you get to know everybody quite a bit. So, I mean, over the years, they're pretty tight-knit group. They play soccer together. So, they know one another. And if somebody new's coming in and wants to play, they're all pretty welcome to them. They're like, hey, we got to have these guys. We need to have a team. So, they open arms and say, hey, come on in and join. So,
and all of that said, we've talked about this before, but just the program being in the state that it's in, long-term veteran coach, a core group that comes all back next spring. Big picture, what does Kirksville tennis look like in your opinion?
Well, I know they posted the job. Hopefully somebody comes in and takes it. I mean, they're going to be in good shape with the boys. They're going to have 3 or 4 out of the top 6 there, 4, I think. So, it'll be kind of set for them. But, new facility, that's in the mix, I think, for them we're going to need, in the next years to come. I know they're doing a lot of remodeling at the school, a lot of building. I think that is in the mix in the 2nd or 3rd wave of building. So, that'd be exciting, for them to get a new facility. We need one.
It'll be a different landscape with no NCMC and no Lee Riley.
Yeah. I don't, you kind of play the same schools that's going to be around you. I mean, maybe they got something going on. No one talks to me about, who's in the conference. I guess it's not going to be my responsibility, but I mean, you can schedule, you can get on there and schedule a lot of people, because tennis, you can have, over 20 matches. So, I mean, that's a full schedule if you have that many. So, I mean, they could travel around and get into a lot of different areas to play tennis. I mean, shoot, we've been up in Iowa, we go over to Quincy and play them. So there are places they can play. I think they'll still kind of play the same people, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
I think one benefit that tennis has is you're not necessarily concerned about the size of school that you're playing. It's just if you can find competition, and you can find a team to play against, there's not really any reason not to. I guess what is kind of your philosophy on that, as far as like once the conference is dissolved, like what Kirksville should do. You talk about going across the river and playing in Illinois, stuff like that. What are some realistic fits for finding matches?
Yeah, I mean, like we play Trent. I mean, Trenton is so much smaller than us, but over the years, they've had some great teams. They beat us. Last year you only had 4 players. We go over to Quincy, Notre Dame and play them. They're always tough. We used to play Quincy. They got kind of really too good for us, for the level of, what they are. But, you could always put them back on. It's just things kind of change, it kind of runs in cycles, so to speak. But, yeah, it's
right on. Lee, I appreciate it greatly, man.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, shoot, I've been doing this, 23 years now? And heck, I think there's 4 years that I haven't had somebody stay. Just been blessed with with good kids. Now, we haven't meddled that much. I know that. But
you think this might be a Quinn Doral type of year?
I hope. I know there's 6 out of the 8 kids that medaled that could be eligible for the tournament. So we'll see. I mean, he plays quite a bit. So he's heck of a competitor. So I don't know. I'd like to see him finish in the top 4. That'd be something special. I'd like to get our team there, but I don't know if that's even possible. So just depends on how the district's lined up.
Is it going to be a pretty fun last hurrah?
Yeah, we're going to have fun with it. Yeah, I told the kids we were going to buy some sleeveless shirts so they could show off their muscles and stuff like that. And that's what all the pros and everyone's going to now, these sleeveless shirts. So I told them we'd do something special like that for them. They thought that was cool.
I mean, next thing you know, they'll be expecting to play on clay.
Yeah, clay and grass. Yeah, that'll be something. Hey, maybe Kirksville could get them a clay court.
Kirksville boys tennis coach Lee Riley.
Yeah.
Lee, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
We appreciate it greatly. Joined now by Truman volleyball coach Dave Gannon. Excuse me. Joined now by Truman volleyball coach David Gannon. How are you doing this afternoon, sir?
Yeah, Henry, how are you, man?
Doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us. It's very good to see you. Season ended a little bit ago. Conference tournament berth fell to Quincy in what I know you thought was a winnable game. A little bit of time for reflection on just how the season went since the end of November. How are you feeling about how your girls performed?
I was ultimately happy with, never satisfied, but happy with the progress and the results of the year. Thinking way back to August, we were picked in our preseason poll to finish 11th, and so to finish 6th in our regular season is pretty awesome. But yeah, that conference tournament, it was really cool to be there. To see our name with up in a banner with the other 7 schools that are represented in the GLVC was pretty awesome. We knew Quincy was a good team, and so we had a little bit more time to prepare and create a game plan for them, and we actually did play better. If you look at the total score, total points scored, that's maybe kind of small peanuts, but we scored 10 more points that game, even though we lost in 3. Each of the 3 sets were closer than the previous time we played them just a couple weeks prior. So it's good. I'm proud of them.
3 seed Quincy. They were a tough out, and you knew that going in. Ultimately, like you say, preseason picked 11th, and finding a way to get in as the 6th seed. That's pretty impressive, jumping 5 spots from where you were projected to finish. Just for you looking forward, do you think that the Dogs were overlooked, or do you think they overperformed?
I think probably a little bit of both. I think is the natural answer. There's no one really knows what's going on in other people's gyms, and those are just speculative preseason voting, and but I also think that we grew as a team. Last year we were so close. We lost 12 5-game matches, 5th-game matches, and so just with a little bit of age, we're a ton of freshmen last year, freshmen and sophomores, and now they're sophomores and juniors primarily, and so just that 1 year of age and experience, maturity.
Some exciting news in your camp this afternoon as academic postseason accolades are announced. Not tremendously surprising to you, I'm sure, but highlight some of those ladies.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about my job is working for a high academic institution. I don't really have to worry about them very often, and but the 4 that made the list are one of our seniors, Michaela Way. She graduated early just last week, and just a wonderful story there. She all the way from Tampa, Florida. I don't think she'd ever even heard of Kirksville. Her first visit was in February, and they flew into Kansas City, and there was snow their entire drive here. And somehow she decided to still come to school here after one of the first time, maybe the first time, I don't remember, of her experiencing snow. For sure, like driving in the snow. But really grateful to have her. She came a long ways in the classroom. She worked really hard. And on the volleyball court, she's kind of just this quiet performer. She's never going to be the loudest, most boisterous. She's just going to quietly get her work done, and she'll be missed for sure. And then Tori Creason, she's one of our captains. She's one of our setters. Just kind of blossomed this year. She's always been a decent student, but she's figured some things out in the volleyball court as well. And she, was able to match all conference honors with those academic honors this year, which is awesome. And then our sophomores, Autumn Erickson and Addie Jansen, both just exceptional young ladies, both leaders in their own right. And again, it's nice to see the success on the court, but then also be able to celebrate them in the classroom as well is really cool.
Congratulations to all 4 of those ladies. What does, looking ahead, when you get back from the holidays and students are back on campus, your team is back on campus, what does the off season look like, not just in the gymnasium, but the recruiting trail? What does a collegiate volleyball cycle look like in that regard?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of downtime before we got to get back at it. And the recruiting trail is the first to be hit, and we've got to go and secure some future Bulldogs that are going to help us on this trajectory that we're on right now. And we need a relatively large class for 2027. We're all done with next fall, but for 2027, we've got 4 or 5 kids we need to bring in that are going to help elevate our gym. And so that's the earlier we can start, the better there. Once we get our team back in the gym, it's going to be, being able to break down a lot of our skills, which is the spring is a growth time for us. In the fall, we come in from summer where if you didn't work hard, it's going to be a tough season, and it's because we have such a short period of time before we have to compete. So they get to campus, and then just a few weeks later, we have to go compete and go play in real matches. And so the spring is nice. We get to kind of slow things down, break things down. We'll get out some cameras that we can kind of see some different angles. They can kind of we have a lot of visual learners on our team, so they'll be able to to have a different point of view at the skills we're talking about. And then we see a lot of growth in the weight room. We're in the weight room 3 to 4 times a week. And so, on average, even a kid that's been here for a few years, we're going to see probably an increase of an inch or more on their vertical jump, their squat or deadlift, just being more explosive. It's where a lot of that growth, represents on the court is from the weight room. So it's kind of what it looks like.
A lot that goes into it before we start thinking about late August, early September. Talk about your young team. You talk the 26 class is already filled. You're thinking about the 27 class. What are some voids? Voids might not be the right word, but what are some spots that you might be looking to enhance? What's going to be the secret sauce for this next generation of Bulldogs, as, like you say, your 2 sophomores, both academically recognized today, as well as everybody else? What are some spots that you really want to see filled from a personnel perspective when you're looking at girls on the recruiting trail?
Yeah. When I'm talking to people that help, with recruiting, on the athletic side, the athlete side, they ask for like our needs, like our recruiting needs, and this 27 class is kind of like I'll take one of everything, please, and so, but I think the positions that are going to be most crucial for us is finding a setter. So we're on a 2-year cycle with setters, and so every 2 years we try and find the next one, because Tori Creason, which I've mentioned, she'll be a senior this next year, and so we'll need to replace her in 27. And that way there's always that continuous gap of maturity and growth and all that. And then I would say a couple spots that we lack a little bit more depth in would be middle blocker. So with Michaela Way leaving this year, and we would need someone that can come in and help compete in the middle blocker position. And then I really think that having another libero, another back row specialist, can really help push our sophomore Addie Jansen right now. This year we didn't really have another designated libero, so there's really no depth in that position. And so there were times where she didn't feel like she was being pushed by someone else playing well, and so a lot of her success was conversations with me and her having to push herself through some of those times where it's like, well, it's just me. Like, I don't feel like I have to compete, and so always having depth in those positions, it really helps that person that is on top, work hard and continue to earn their spot. I tell the girls this all the time, that I don't really care who plays, but the best player is going to win. So I don't care if you're a senior or a freshman. If you come in, you can compete and you can win that position, it's yours. I don't really care, and so having that depth is just makes for a good competitive gym in our space, which prepares us for competition. So I'd say those are the couple spots we need.
On the recruiting trail in that regard, volleyball, I think, is an interesting sport in this aspect. Like you say, like, you don't care if somebody's a 5th-year senior, if they're fresh on campus, so the better player is going to play. Where do you find that balance in a sport that's as specialized as volleyball at any given position, between like finding what you need to like force the competition at that, like within the team, to force that competition without over recruiting? You know what I mean? How do you find that type of locker room where you can balance figuring out who the best girl to put on the court is while also not just having too many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah, we're really thoughtful about who we have in leadership positions. We have to trust the people that we put in those positions, because we don't really have access to the locker room. You know, like I don't get to be in there, and I'm not with them at their homes. Like, I have to trust those people in leadership positions. And so and that's really that's aside from how they perform on the court necessarily. It doesn't it's not a given that they are one of our captains, one of our leaders, and they're on the volleyball court. Like it doesn't always have to work out that way. And so when we're looking at talent, there has to be like a baseline of, okay, that kid can jump so high, she can hit the ball hard, she can, she's getting well over the net. Whatever the parameters that we're looking for, there has to be that baseline. But once we get deeper into the recruiting process, we have to know that kid's like a good person. Its character is going to win out over just talent. Like someone that might be a little bit more talented but is a terrible human being, like she's going to be lower on my list than someone who might not be as talented but who's a good teammate, who's going to work her butt off, who is going to enjoy the process and believe in the process. That person I'm going to pick over,
I think that's kind of what I was trying to walk you into. One time you said to me, and I don't know if this is like a core tenet or a philosophy of yours, but you just said it and it stuck with me for a while, is that oftentimes like leadership and playing time don't have anything to do with each other. And it's awesome. You have a group that like they play for one another. And I think that's evidenced on the court. Look ahead a little bit to the 2026 slate. And I know that's way off in the distance, but where you guys open up, if you have any destination tournaments early in the season, anything like that, if the schedule's even out yet.
Yeah, we know our GLVC schedule, but it's still a little too early with our non-conference. So those first 3 weekends we can go elsewhere to do a destination or whatever, and so those are still pending, but we know what our GLVC slate looks like, and it's going to be tough as always, but we want to try and go be a little bit more competitive in our non-conference segment those first few weeks this year, this 2025 fall. I can admit that we probably bit off a little bit more than we can chew with playing Nebraska Kearney and Missouri Western twice, and so it's kind of a balance there of making sure that we go somewhere that we're not just gonna like roll over teams, but we're not gonna get rolled over as well. Oh, and Washburn. We went to Washburn this year. Like, maybe in a couple of years we can compete a little bit better against those teams. But now I have to do a better job of making sure that we're finding that balance of teams we can compete with. We might not win everyone, but at least we can compete a little bit better. Give ourselves a shot going into GLVC.
I hope that, like, to your point, you talk about maybe in a handful of years, Washburn would be a great team to have on the schedule. And when the time's just not there, like the beginning of the season was brutal, as you mentioned. Is there really any kind of like that caused any discouragement, or it was just Like, these are just really, really good volleyball teams, and now we're just going into the season having gotten beat up on a handful of times?
This year's been a little bit different, and I think I attribute it to the fact that we are a year older, a little bit more mature, and they're able to kind of see, what my goal was with scheduling tough.
Yeah.
Is to prepare us for a tough conference segment. And so last year we had a similar non-conference, and we didn't win a single, like we went like 0-16, like the start of 2024. And so just getting the few 3 or 4 or 5 wins that we got in that non-conference segment this year was just an attribute to them being a little bit older, wiser, just kind of understand the process and trusted and believed in what I was asking them to do. And so we got to keep going with that philosophy. It's GLVC is never going to get worse. Like, they're always going to get better. And so we've got to prepare more and more each year, just striking that balance.
Moving forward, looking ahead in the conference before I let you go, Coach, UMSL's, of course, going to be right there in the national mix as far as a powerhouse. Who else in the conference do you guys necessarily have your eyes on looking ahead?
Yeah, UMSL, Rockhurst, Quincy, UINDY had a nice run this year. They ended up beating UMSL in the regional. And, there's Lewis. Lewis is they're always going to be good, and so there's a nice slate of teams that we can go, set our sights on and go try and catch them. So,
Truman State University head volleyball coach David Gannon. Coach, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I appreciate it greatly, and thank you for wrapping up the 2025 inaugural semester of Raining Cats and Dogs. I have been your host, Henry Jansen, sports writer for the Kirksville Daily Express, and again, it can't be overstated. Anybody who's even tuned into a single episode, thank you guys so much. We wouldn't do this without your guys' support and without your guys' viewership or listenership. It means a great deal to us. All of the coaches that we have had over the course of the past 3 months have been nothing short of diligent and helpful and informative. When you get somebody to talk about what they're passionate about, it's easy to get them to talk. And I have found in my time hosting this show that is the case for every single coach that I've spoken with, both Truman State University and Kirksville High School. So to you coaches, thank you guys very much as well. It's been Raining Cats and Dogs, and we will see you guys in 2026.